What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to the Casual Fan Podcast, the hardest working, most accurate, most entertaining sports gambling show on YouTube. I'm David Rubin, and today we are going to be previewing and breaking down UFC Whittaker versus Gastelum, as well as Jake Paul versus Ben Askren. Please like and subscribe. Saturday is going to be a huge day for combat sports fans. Not only do we have another UFC card, but we get to see Jake Paul's return to the boxing ring against Ben Askren. We're going to talk about both of them, but let's start with UFC. So first things first, stay away from Ricardo Ramos and Abdul Razak Al Hassan. Pick and fights can never be trusted, so sit back and enjoy that fight without having to worry about losing money. Meanwhile, Razak Al Hassan is a violent dude. He's 10-3 with all 10 of his wins coming by knockout. But he's on a 2-fight losing streak, so he's been given a human punching bag to get himself back in the winning column. Expect him to add another first-round KO to his body count, as well as a possible performance of the night. Over to the other fights in the main card. If seeing Andrei Arlovski in the octagon in 2021 isn't enough to make you feel old, nothing will. Meanwhile, after getting cut in 2018, Chase Sherman is out to prove that he's here to stay. Sherman is a fighter who throws a lot of strikes, but takes a lot of them too. He averages 6.02 significant strikes per minute while absorbing 5.55. We could see both fighters take a patient and steady approach, waiting for the right time to hit the other on the counter. It won't be as bad as Ngannou versus Lewis, but it could mean this fight goes the distance. Heavyweight fights that end in decision are never fun, but in that scenario, ride with the young blood, Chase Sherman, to get the victory. This will also be a great chance to see Luis Pena, aka Violent Bob Ross, back in action. That is, pound for pound, the best nickname in the UFC right now. Pena is a submission artist. He averages 1.37 takedowns per 15 minutes and 1.4 submission attempts in that time. He's hard to hit, which is bad news for his opponent. Munoz uses strikes to set up his wrestling, but if he can't get his game going, he gets easily frustrated. Pena needs to get a win, so he'll fight smart and cruise to a decision. In the co-main event, we get to see Jeremy Stephens, aka Lil Heathen, aka who the fuck is that guy? Ever since Conor McGregor verbally assaulted him like that, he's been a broken man. He's on a 4-fight losing streak at featherweight, so he's coming back to lightweight, but this time he's taking on Drakkar Klose. Klose is also coming off a loss to Beneil Dariush, and he hasn't fought in over a year. However, if Stephens loses, his UFC career may be over, so he may fight recklessly looking to get an early KO. He has the power to do so, but Klose's best strategy is to frustrate him and take him down, and eventually grind out the decision win. Now on to the main event. Ironically, these two were scheduled to fight for Whittaker's belt back in 2019. They both since lost to Izzy and are hoping to use this fight to get a second crack at the champ. Since losing to Izzy, Whittaker is 2-0 against Darren Till and Jared Cannonier. Gastelum, by contrast, is 1-2 since losing to Adesanya. He lost to Till and Jack Hermanson before finally beating Ian Heinsick. That said, those were close losses. He gave Izzy a few scares, and he's a better fighter than his record indicates. While I love Bobby Knuckles to win this fight, Gastelum won't make it easy. He's a hard opponent to finish, and he has a ton of power, making this fight likely to go the distance. That said, Whittaker does have a reach advantage over his opponent, and he can use it to keep Gastelum at bay. He's still a better striker, better wrestler, and better all-around fighter than Gastelum, so be confident in him getting the win. Whether that leads to another title shot right away, however, remains to be seen. So to recap, I've got Chase Sherman, Luis Pena, Drakkar Klose, and Robert Whittaker, all winning, all by decision. Now over to the boxing ring. We've got Jake Paul, whose most famous move was knocking the fuck out of Nate Robinson, against Ben Askren, whose most famous move was getting knocked the fuck out by Jorge Masvidal. Luckily for Askren, you can't throw knees in boxing. Jake Paul opened as much as a -280 favorite over Ben Askren, but that has since shrunk to -130. That said, he's rightly the favorite. Jake Paul is far from a real boxer, but he's clearly devoted a lot of time and effort to the craft. Plus, you can hate the Paul brothers as much as you want, and there are many reasons to hate them, but they are genius marketers. On a night when Mike Tyson and Roy Jones Jr. fought, all anyone could talk about was Jake Paul beating Nate Robinson. It got a bunch of athletes wanting a piece of him, naturally, because who wouldn't want to cave in that douchey face? In Ben Askren, he gets his first test, a real combat sports athlete, but one he should still have the advantage over. Askren's a world-class wrestler, but that's obviously not going to serve him well in a boxing match. That's not to say he can't box at all. Askren's no Nate Robinson. He's a talented fighter who can handle himself, and he's clearly put in a lot of time and effort to winning this fight, as evidenced by his Rocky IV style training montage. But MMA fighters can be hilariously out of depth in their ring. Remember when Conor McGregor tried to hammer fist Mayweather? That'll never not be funny. Plus, Askren has way more to lose than Paul does. If Paul loses, big deal. A YouTuber losing to a pro fighter should be the expected outcome. Askren, however, is representing the entire sport of MMA in this fight, and if he loses, he'll rightly be viewed as a laughingstock. It's one thing for McGregor to lose to a 49-0 Mayweather, but it's another thing for Askren to lose to a 2-0 professional vlogger. Askren actually can put his wrestling background to good use by clinching him up a bunch. That said, if Paul uses his jab to set up a bigger shot like he memorably did against Nate Robinson, then he'll have success too. That's why the best bet in this fight might actually be a draw at plus 1,600 odds. No one will like it, but it's an easy way to sell a rematch. It's pretty rare in boxing, but celebrity boxing events tend to have draws for that exact reason. Oh, that's what happened in the last one of these events between Mike Tyson and Roy Jones, although the outcome of that fight meant far less than this one will. Whether they do end up rematching, or whether Jake Paul tries to chase a Conor McGregor fight afterwards, all depends on the success of this battle. But as long as Snoop Dogg's in the broadcast booth again, the real winner will be all of us.